Hello, hi. I'm Susanna Crawford, Community Manager here at Give Smart by Community Brands, and we are thrilled to have each of you here today joining the conversation. Today is the 11th episode of our Outside the Room Fundraising Success Series in the hopes that we can inspire each other to continue innovating. We are going to tee off today by introducing our expert panelists. Today we're joined by the marvelous Leslie McGuigan from the First Tee of Delaware to share their story. Leslie, thank you so much for being here.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Today we're also joined by Kendra Jen, Senior Customer Success Manager, and Brandon Steck, Director of Marketing at GiveSmart, who are both deeply experienced fundraisers in their own right. Kendra and Brandon, thank you both for being here.
Happy to be here.
Thanks. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to start with a little bit of process and procedure to kick us off. Check out givesmart.com for more success stories and our social media for more outside the room resources. Also in the chat, you'll see some resources that we want to share with this content. No matter where you are in your fundraising journey, these can help you accelerate your impact and further your cause. So let's get started with a quick pulse check on how you are feeling. As of today, how confident are you that you'll reach your goals? Not so hot, we're getting there, we'll hit it for sure, or we may surpass it. And while we're checking in, Leslie, could you give us a high-level overview of your mission?
So our mission here at the First Tee, we are a youth development organization that teaches life skills through the game of golf. And we teach that through our 9 core values and our healthy habits. And our courses are on the golf course during the warmer seasons. We have classes in our elementary schools through the physical education classes, and also in our community centers for after-school programs.
Awesome. All right, we'll give everyone there, and here are our answers. All right, Brandon, you're in the data every day. How does this view to what you're seeing?
We're definitely seeing a nice trend as people are feeling more and more comfortable in this we're getting there mode, or even in the we'll hit it for sure. So that I think that 9% is the highest I've seen yet, which is really great to see, almost 10%. So really nice to see that people are progressing, and we're going to work with those in the not so hot category, and we're going to get you to this. We're getting there feeling eventually. We're really trying to put as much content out there to help everyone feel a little bit better about tomorrow. So really nice to see and some positive there, and we'll continue to gauge this every week, as there's definitely some good signs.
Great. It's so good to feel hopeful in all this. And let's go ahead and drive this forward. Today we'll be covering how Leslie and the First Tee of Delaware have been able to continue with their signature golf events in new innovative ways, as well as the virtual bartender event that I know you guys are all actually here for. So just sit back and consider this happy hour. I've also asked our panelists to stay at the end for about 10 to 15 minutes of question and answer. You can send in the questions through the chat option, and don't hesitate to just do this early, and we'll compile it throughout the conversation today. We'd love to have you join in this conversation. Let's jump in. So the First Tee of Delaware caught our eye due to their innovation. 4 different golf events this summer, all very different. Kendra, can you and Leslie walk us through the First Tee of Delaware story and elements?
Absolutely. Thanks for the introduction, Susanna. Leslie, I'll go ahead and kind of take it from here. If you don't mind sharing a little bit about what life was like before our current landscape with everything going on.
So here at the First Tee, we are, I guess you could say, a really in-your-face organization. So we are with the children on the golf course, ages from 4 through 18, just with them all the time, teaching them their life skills and progressing them through our organization. But we're also really active in our community with securing donors and also our volunteers to help keep our organization going. Mostly before COVID, every aspect that we had except our annual appeal, which is a mailing, have been live in-person events, golf outings, private golf outings, dinners, fundraisers, and our live guest bartender events. So when this pandemic hit, we were like, oh God, what are we going to do? Just because we are just so hands-on people and in-your-face people. We're like, how are we going to do this? And right before the pandemic hit, our director and our program director was at a event with another First Tee chapter that they used the platform for a silent auction part. So we did a little more research and we said, how can we use our virtual skills to keep things going instead of shutting down? So that's when we got involved with GiveSmart and just try to have every event that we normally have, but turn it into a virtual feature.
Awesome. And with having so many events go back to back, how do you guys communicate that with all of your guests? And how do you kind of keep everything organized and everybody with a clear understanding of what you guys have going on?
So we communicate with all our events through, first off, we utilize our own website because we really, really, really love to drive everybody to our website because it's chock full of information about everything that we do. So with that said, we need to have other avenues to drive people to the website. It's just not gonna get people there themselves. So we do utilize Constant Contact. We have a good resource, which also us using GiveSmart and collecting more names has actually allowed us to expand on our contact list there. We use social media. We use Facebook fairly heavily, Twitter, Instagram, and like our Constant Contact. And when an event is coming up, we just utilize them to drive people to our GiveSmart websites or getting them to text in version.
Awesome. So it sounds like promotion is really important and key to keeping all of your guests informed. Any like best practices or tips when you're talking social media?
Keeping your message consistent throughout each platform. So each platform is different demographics that use them. So we found that if we're sending out all these different messages on different platforms, it gets very confusing. So we usually come up with what we're going to send out on our Constant Contact first, because that's where we can use the most language. Then we pare it down for Facebook, then pare it down a little bit more for Instagram, and then what's the most important tip out of that for Twitter that we want to get out there. So that has been our kind of plan of how to utilize the social media platform in our messaging, but just keeping it consistent for each event.
Awesome.
And yeah, and with our when we send our email blasts, we usually put the most recent or the program that's coming up or event that's coming up first, and then we put it in chronological order. So they're getting the most recent and say, oh, okay, I have time to get into this, and then, okay, well, what's coming up after that?
What's really cool, and just these images here, is how much fun you're having with the visuals, as well as linking to your site and doing all the technical things. A key practice. I'm the marketing guy. I had to jump in. Like, I was really excited to see the visuals that you're using here and having some fun with the messaging and not just saying the same thing over and over again, but getting the point across is really, really a great practice. And hopefully everyone is really taking note of, some of the social distancing recommendations that you're putting right out in front so people feel safe. Really a wonderful job done here on the social media side of things.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great tips. Consistency is key too, it sounded like, as you were touching there. Awesome. And I know you have the annual Mayor's Cup coming up soon, and Brandon kind of touched on this just a minute ago, but the social distance guidelines. You have very clear guidelines that are put out there. Can you kind of talk a little bit more about how you guys came up with these guidelines and make sure your guests are aware of them?
Okay. So these guidelines came up with a collaboration of many different organizations that back the First Tee National and each individual chapters. And you can see all the logos that are there, the USGA, the PGA, the LPGA, and First Tee National. And they came up with this subgroup that's called Back to Golf. And it was a group that was saying, okay, how can we get our youth and our adults back to golf in a way that's safe, because it is an outdoor activity that doesn't have as many restrictions as indoor activities, and keep them going. So like I said, it was a collaboration of many, and it's a consistency that most First Tee organizations nationwide are using. But we're also using this for our adults, for when parents bring their children to our program. They all have this, and we're not only telling the children that they have to use this, but the parents have to adhere to these guidelines too, as well as all of our staff and our coaches.
Awesome. So it sounds like across the board, these are the same guidelines that are pulled from other large groups, as well as used nationally for you. That's
absolutely.
That's good. Awesome. Perfect. And then kind of along with the same event, we do have a little screenshot here of the ticket purchasing. You guys are in the middle of selling tickets and some sponsorship opportunities. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on the youth sponsor and how it's going for you so far?
So our youth sponsor, this is an opportunity for people who are not golfers or who can't golf the day of this outing, but want to make a donation, and make a donation that's geared in a specific way. So this youth sponsor of $100 will pay for a 3 seasons, one of 3 seasons for the children to participate in our classes, which we call our life skills experience classes, which are live on the golf course. So a sponsor can sponsor a youth to participate in those classes. We do serve a large underserved community that may not be able to afford to send their children. So when we allow this sponsorship out there, it allows us to reach a greater amount of children that may not have had the opportunity to do so. This is probably one of our most important sponsorships.
Yeah, that's amazing. That allows you to connect with more participants for the program. So that's great to hear that that's going well. So kind of continuing on, I'm going to jump back to a past event of yours. You guys had some weather trouble where you guys had to cancel an event last minute. Can you kind of talk about the communication strategy you had when the hurricane blew in and canceled your event the day before?
Yes. So this was an opportunity that we had from a connection of a golf coach that used to work in Delaware, but he kind of is right over the line in Pennsylvania. Young girl that he had who had a lot of illnesses, and her family wanted to have some golf opportunities and donate to a charity that would allow children to keep doing what her child did, which was golf. And we're really heavy with the Women Golfers Give Back program and girls golf. Also too with the boys, we don't leave them out. So on Monday we had a golf marathon that was geared towards the youth, and on Tuesday was supposed to be the golf outing where all of the adults were involved in it, and it was also another live event. Halfway through the day, probably around 1, 2 o'clock, the golf course said that the weather is going to be too bad the next day. We could not have the tournament. So it allowed us, Give Smart, because I was in the program at the time at the golf marathon, allowed me to switch very quickly from one event to another, do a quick email and text blast out to everybody to say, hey, the event's canceled tomorrow because of weather. I'll be in touch with you over the next couple of days to see if you need a refund. And everybody was very responsive. The majority of the people did allow us to keep their purchases as donations, and there was a handful of refunds, which allowed me to get into the program, the Give Smoke program, and learn yet another level of it, of how to do those refunds.
Awesome.
So it was very easy to use. It was very easy in the communications. Instead of doing millions of phone calls, it got the message out there very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know in one of your communications, you had actually asked your guests to reply back. Can you speak on that a little bit more and what you learned from that experience?
So we asked them to reply back to my personal email to see if they needed a refund or not. But it was also another means for us to know that they got the message that the event was canceled. And we only had to make really a handful of phone calls to say, hey, just making sure you know that not to show up tomorrow in the middle of the hurricane where the golf outing is not going on.
Awesome. That's great. And on to the next event that you guys had, the Live to Be Kind Golf Marathon. Can you just explain a little bit about the Live to Be Kind events and how it came about?
So these events, which were back to back on Monday, Tuesday. So the marathon was on Monday, August 3rd. It was through a relationship that we had with somebody who used to be one of our coaches and involved in one of our programs here in Delaware, but he moved right over the line in Pennsylvania and started his own golf academy. Works very closely with the Women's Golfers Give Back program, which we work very closely with. And again, I said it was a family who had a daughter who was very sick and was a great golfer. And unfortunately, she passed away. And the family wanted to do something in memory of her, but also put the proceeds to a youth organization to allow people to continue Olivia's legacy. So the marathon was geared towards the youth. It was an event where they could come in and golf as many holes as they were able to. So we had kids probably from about 5 to 21. So the 21, sorry, you're not kids, you're very young adults. Some came in with their parents and golfed 3 to maybe 9 holes. But we had a few that started at 5 a.m. and didn't finish until 10:15 and golfed 152 to 154 holes. So before that, we allowed them to sign up on the GiveSmart platform and also send this message out to their family and friends and the parents, colleagues to pledge for their child. So you could pledge $1 per hole, you could pledge $3 and $5 or $10, whatever you felt like. And then we just put in a question to say, hey, what's the marathon participant's name that you're pledging for? So that allowed us to keep track of, Susie Smith and whoever all was pledging for her. So it was a lot easier than having them sign up for their own kind of site and then sending that out. If did I babble on too much?
No, that was perfect. So you guys had this, I kind of want to elaborate a little bit further because I think you were getting there, but the pledge to play piece of this, can you kind of talk about how that worked pre-event, as everything was kicking off during the event, and then even, post it, were you able to continue using that?
So the pledge to play, we utilize the vote mechanism within the GiveSmart program and just kind of renamed it as a pledge. So the vote mechanism, became our pledge. So as you can see on here is a $1, a $3, or $5 for $10 per vote. And we just sent out an email blast and social media blast and said, here it is. There's kids involved in it. If you want to sign up and participate, you can do a direct donation, or you can pledge per participant that is participating that day.
That's a great way to get people involved, especially, with these price points that, really gives the golfers a good initiative to drive and, golf as well. So
Yeah.
I love that
And
idea.
some of the people who said, okay, I'm going to pledge $10 per hole, but I'm going to limit it to 10. So don't charge my card over $100 or something. They were very specific in writing notes in this question that we put on there, which we're getting to utilize that question a little bit more in our events going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great use of that tool. Awesome. And kind of continuing with the sponsorship component of it, how much promotion were you able to do with the sponsorships that were available?
So this sponsorship came out of the golf course not allowing us to put signs on the golf course that day, just because of they didn't want to be touching things. They didn't want other people to be touching things. So we said, okay, how do we get around that and still sell sponsorship? So we sold sponsorships for an ad on the homepage of the website. And that's where this came out of. So they could go in and purchase it for $100, which would normally be the sign, the price of the sign on the golf course on a hole. And they would just email me their name, their company name, logo, photo, and email. And it worked really, really well. And if I was in the system and I saw somebody had an ad sponsorship and didn't email me, this Give Smart platform allowed me to say, hey, John Smith did a sponsorship, but he didn't give me the information. And I was able to email and or call him and say, hey, can you, just send me all the information so we can get you recognized properly.
Absolutely. That's great. So it sounds like not only did they get that recognition the day of the golf, but before maybe and after as well. Before
and after. Yeah, we have these two sites still live and open. We did not close them yet, just because of the nature of the events. And I guess you could say the feeling around it, we still have some revenue coming in for both of the marathon and the golf outing for this Olivia Juliana events.
Awesome. That's great.
And quick question too, just to throw at you, Leslie. So I know this is the first time you guys have done something like this. Can you just give overall success? What were people's reactions to doing it in this format?
In the middle of this pandemic, they were ecstatic. They were ecstatic because then they didn't have to go someplace and fill out a form and stand in line in front of somebody, and they could do it in the comfort of their own home or on their cell phone, which I keep telling everybody is the absolute easiest way. The response was just unbelievable. And the response of sometimes when people were out on the course at the event on Monday on the marathon, they were able to actually change their bids and add to the bids or call their parents or grandparents and say, hey, go into your account and up it because, I'm at 100 holes. So it was very interactive and very easy to use.
I love that. Such a great one.
Yeah, that's great. And kind of moving on, I know now you're thinking towards the future. You have your next golf marathon. I'd love for you to explain this concept a little bit more and what you have going on for the month of September golf marathon.
So this golf marathon is replacing a golf outing that we would have had in our southern Delaware area, which was called the Delmarva Scramble. And it was on a very private golf course. And that unfortunately is one of the golf course that is only allowing its members to be on there and not allowing large gatherings to be on that golf course. So we said, okay, how do we still keep everybody in our southern areas engaged? Because our office is in northern Delaware. So this event is really geared towards the golf courses, clubs, the PGA professionals, and the more experienced golf golfers in our area. Those who are out golfing a lot, those have connections. So we're giving them the whole month of September to get out and golf when it's convenient for them, and ask their contacts to pledge per hole golfed for them. So this is really not a youth, although, you know, we do have some youth that have went through our program that are in their 19 or early 20s who are actually participating in it. So this replaced an actual live golf outing. So there's nothing that we really have to do to be live at any golf course. We're sitting in our office and administering this and taking care of it on our end.
Awesome. So more time essentially for the golfers to get on that golf course and play their rounds.
Yes, because a lot of them are teaching, a lot of them are PGA pros, so they have the connections. So so in between their teaching and when they go out and do their practice rounds, or, you know, whenever they get out and leisurely golf, they're going to count those golfing holes as towards this marathon.
Awesome. That's great. I love that concept. And kind of moving along with this, with such a big change to this event, can you again talk a little bit about the communication for it and how you're, you know, updating your golfers on what they're doing over the course of the whole month?
Yeah. So our communication for this is a little bit different than the others. So we're really targeting the actual golf courses themselves and the pros and the managers at the golf courses to get this out to them and to advertise it to their staff and their pros there, because that's what we're really looking for. And that's kind of where we get our bigger donors at, and then our retainer donors throughout the years who have a vested interest in our mission for our organization. So this is a little different. We are still learning. This is a new one for us. I won't say we have this one down pat yet. It's a learning process, a little learning curve. It's going a little bit slower than we would like, but as everybody knows, with golf marathons and tournaments and golf events, they all come together a day or two before it starts. So again, we're utilizing our email blast through our constant contacts, our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just total consistency. And our board members are emailing their contacts through their own personal emails for this one.
Oh, that's great. So you have other people helping. What is the golfers' feedback? What have you heard from people who are participating?
They're really excited. They're really excited because we're not putting pressure on them to say that you have to be at this place at this certain time. They're able to work this around their schedules. So it's a little bit less pressure for them.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks so much. So now we're gonna move right into what we've all been waiting for the virtual bartender event. They put the fun in fundraising. Kendra and Leslie, can you walk us through this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So Leslie, this one, obviously, I thought this was just one of the best events that I've heard of recently. The virtual guest bartender, you had a lot of different elements involved with this event, from a silent auction to donations, sponsorships, raffle, and of course your guest bartenders. So with that, we can slide to the next slide. We'll dive in a little bit more. Leslie, can you talk a little bit about this event as a whole and how you made the shift to being virtual?
So this was our, believe it or not, our first event in the Give Smart program, which we decided to use, if you want to say, the whole kitchen sink and everything that was available within the program to keep it as real as our live bartender events. So for us, we have these throughout the state. We have relationships with different restaurants and that have bars, and just real nice it usually a happy hour type thing, if you want to call it. So we have guests, whether that be a political person in the area, one of our board members, maybe an executive of one of the companies in the area. They come to a restaurant for us and they spend 20 to 30 minutes behind the bar and hooping it up and trying to pour as many drinks and mix as many drinks as they can and get donations. And we usually raise at a live one maybe about $3,000, but we make a lot of connections and we have a lot of fun. So we said, oh, how are we going to do this? Because we can't go into these bars, because at that time it was all closed. So we decided to do this virtual guest bartender, where we reached out to our board of directors and some of our bigger donors and our staff to come up with videos or recipes of their favorite drink. But we also specified that it did not have to be an alcoholic drink, just because of our target audience. We did have younger kids on this too. So somebody like Beryl here gave her favorite wine selection. But we also tied in with that not only their favorite recipe for their favorite drink, but we also tied in to ask them what was their favorite core value of the First Tee, or why they continue to support the First Tee. This is where we also used the vote mechanism for the votes. So people could vote $1, $3, $5 a vote for their favorite guest bartender. And I will tell you, this far exceeded what we ever thought we would raise on it. So it was a very successful event. But we also put in a 50-50 element, because at a live, we usually have 50-50 tickets that we sell. So we said, hey, let's just put this up virtually and see how we can do it. And it worked. We usually have people that donate gift cards and things like that that we auction off. So we said, hey, let's use the auction feature, and we put it up there. And then we also use the ad sponsorship for different companies to put sponsorships up on the home page of this, which, you know, allowed us to utilize and learn that feature that now we're using on all the other platforms that we're all the other events that we're having right now. So if this was live, you would be able to click on each one of these photos here. Some have a video, some just have a recipe and an explanation of their favorite core value and you know, their recipe and their favorite core value and why they support the First Tee.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. It was a great way to, you know, be able to share virtually your guest bartenders' experience and their stories and their recipes, of course. So it's a great use of that tool. Overall, I know you had mentioned kind of when you first started talking about this event that this was your first event that you kind of went to the virtual aspect. Any feedback from your guests on their experience with going virtual for this one?
The feedback is, when are we going to do it again? They had so much fun with it. At first, it was a little confusing for people because, like I said, we were very hands-on and in your face, and people were like, oh, what do you mean you're going to make me do a video? Well, once one person got a video up, the next one was like, oh, I got to outdo that. How much more creative can I be? And it really became a competition. There was a couple of people that we had to, you know, sign up their own account and walk them through it a little bit. But most people just, you know, gravitated to it really well and got involved in it and just wrapped themselves around it and had fun. Really a lot of fun. And it really came, this event was like right in the middle of when the big stress of the pandemic was. So I really do think it was a great outlet for people to have some fun with.
That's awesome. Leslie, and just curious, were all of the videos pre-recorded or were any of them live streamed? How did you get the videos on here? Like, how does that work?
The videos were all pre-recorded, and we loaded them up to our YouTube channel and linked them to the guest bartender page. So I actually built each guest bartender's page. They emailed me their information and I built each specific page and then sent them out their own personal link that they then sent out to their contacts to vote for them.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just kind of diving in, I know something that you had touched on the other day, Leslie, with us was just the ShopRite Foundation and how you were able to connect with them and also leading to other opportunities. Can you just touch on like new opportunities that have been popping up since?
Yeah, I think since I came on board, not that I'm bragging or whatever, I'm really not. We only had 2 staff members that were really kind of trying to do everything. So my background in graphic design and marketing just gave another piece to the organization. So I got a little bit more heavily involved in the social media and started liking and sharing all of the different foundations and the philanthropists that are in our surrounding areas. And then everybody who would like our page, I then started inviting, who would like a post, and I started asking them to like and follow our page. And from that, our engagement has increased like probably 600% on our social media. We just didn't have somebody in the office that could do it. There was just so much other work going on. And from that, this Chris Kenny, who runs one of the Kenny Family Foundations, which is owns quite a few ShopRites. We put in for a contest for them, won a $100 gift card, thanked them tremendously. We're following him. Now he's following us. So it's just another relationship that we built through, a virtual platform.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
I had a really quick question for you on the virtual bartender before we move off of that, because obviously it's such an amazing and unique idea, and I know a lot of people are interested to learn more about that. But how much, if you're willing to share, obviously we don't want to get into too specifics, but how much were you able to raise in something like that? I mean, I know you've done something similar before. Did it exceed that number? Can you tell us a little bit and just insight there?
Yeah, we were able to raise a little over $25,000 on that event. Yeah, we were ecstatic. We really were. Because we had to shut down our programming for so long, we probably lost anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 in revenue. So this virtual guest bartender is helping us reach or stay near that goal of our revenue generated.
It's helping you bridge your gap, right? And that's Absolutely. Really awesome, because everyone's trying to solve for that. Absolutely.
And it also gave, we weren't asking people to give thousands and thousands of dollars. These little $3, $5, $10, $20, when you reach a bigger audience, it adds up. It really does add up.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's
awesome.
A great piece of advice there.
Yes, thank you so much, Leslie, for walking us through. With so many things going on in the world right now, you guys have really been able to innovate, and it's awesome to hear that you're doing great as an organization. And with that, I'm going to give Kendra and Leslie a little bit of break time before we jump into the Q&A. Brandon, can you give us some data points and insights that we're seeing here at GiveSmart?
Gosh, I got to follow up a virtual bartender. I'm thirsty now, but we can definitely talk about a few different data things that I'm excited about. Keeping on the theme in golf, I did some digging and I was really excited about some of the data that we were able to pull up here. Golf in August is super popular right now. So if we look at this year in August up to yesterday, and last year in August up to same date, it's 100% growth in just the participation in golf type campaigns that we've seen in the GiveSmart platform. That's new users, that's many more sessions, that's people spending more time on the campaigns, and that is oftentimes because reach is expanded when you go virtual, and people like Leslie are being creative in how they do that. So really, really excited about that. And as we look at where those people are coming from, I saw this stat as I was digging that 118% growth on social media, and just specifically on these golf campaigns. So I wanted to dig in. Really kind of cool to see that Facebook grew at 101%. That's obviously awesome. But if you look here, Twitter and LinkedIn had astronomical number of people coming in relative to the previous year. LinkedIn, I think, makes a lot of sense because of who the golfers likely are. People who are looking for more opportunities to get out more right now. Business professionals, maybe just more organizations sharing on LinkedIn. And then if you look at Twitter, it is so important to diversify where you're sharing things, because Twitter obviously got a lot more traffic this year because more people were sharing their golf tournaments. So highly recommend, if you have a golf tournament coming up, to use social media to promote it. If you canceled, if you are unsure about what to do with your golf tournament, it's certainly a popular thing people are looking for right now. Obviously be respectful of the social distancing rules, but look at trying to find a way to make it happen like Leslie and her team did, because it is certainly something that we're seeing success. And we can move on to the next one here. So I've been getting a question quite often of what day of the week should we start our auction, and we have a standard, response that our team gives as we recommend things, when events were traditional. So I wanted to just dig in and use data to translate what was working. This is from our same data we used for our silent auction study. So it's current. It's 400 some thousand lines of data. So it definitely gives a good spectrum. But if we look at the day to start your auction, we are seeing a couple trends. Wednesday and Saturday seem to be very popular in regards to starting your auction. You have both of those with an average over 6.2 bids per item versus the other days. If you look at Tuesday gets the highest return based off of fair market value or the starting bid. So if I'm running a campaign that is on a Saturday, I'm looking at a 7 or maybe 10 day opening schedule where I look at Wednesday or Tuesday to open that up, or the previous Saturday. That's what based on the data, what I would recommend looking here. Now, is that going to always be the most optimal based on your schedule? Maybe not. It depends on if you're doing a golf tournament, obviously, which is during the week, most likely, versus something on the weekend. So definitely, for those that are on their screens here, they can screenshot this. This is helpful data, but it's definitely something to look into. Think of it this way. eBay gives you 7 or 10 days to run a standard auction on their site, and eBay runs more auctions than anyone else online. So our recommendation obviously coincides with start your auction 7 to 10 days before the actual campaign wraps up. That's all I've got.
Awesome. Thank you, Brendan. That information, I think, is so valuable to so many people. We're going to before we jump into the Q&A, we have so many good questions coming in. Continue to fill those in for us. We'll get to as many as we can and follow up. Quick shout out for next week's episode of OTR number 12 with St. Mary's School of DeBelk. And then we have the Engaging Champions for Your Cause on August 26th, where we'll talk about peer-to-peer fundraising and how to do that best. And the last thing right here is, this is a personal invitation to join me at a roundtable discussion. Our next one is August 25th. These are small group brainstorming discussions talking about what is working, what's not working. It's a Zoom call. We've had great feedback on the resources that are provided here. Love to have you join. Look out for a link in the webinar post email and we'll get started with that. I look forward to meeting you. All right, let's jump right in. So the first question, Leslie, what prizes were rewarded for the virtual bartenders?
Bragging rights. We didn't really think, I'm going to be absolutely honest here, we really didn't think that out very well. Like I said, it was our first time into it. We were mainly targeting our board and our longtime coaches that have been with our organization for quite a while, and they like to brag. So we gave them bragging rights for the year. We'll definitely rethink that the next time we do it, and hopefully that if we post a certain prize, we will get a little bit more engagement in that.
Sure. That's a great tip. And did you have titles that they won? Was there only one winner, or how did that work?
We had the person who generated the most votes, and then a person who generated the most revenue.
Got it. Perfect. Thanks so much. Okay, Kendra, I'm going to jump over to you. You actually worked on the virtual bartending side as the CSM. Can you describe how long did this event go on? Was it a day event? Was it a long time? Tell us a little bit about that.
The length of the event, I feel like it kind of came together pretty quickly. And Leslie, you can let me know if you felt the same way. You guys had to open it up earlier for voting, but I feel like overall, I mean, not any longer than our typical event. Is what I would say. So we probably stuck pretty close to that 7 to 10 days that Brandon was kind of touching on earlier for it. And it all came together pretty quick once we got started with the planning process.
Got it. Thanks, Kendra. And Leslie, kind of having you follow up on that, how much time did it really take to put together that virtual bartender event?
Once I got to learn the platform, setting it up was fairly easy. Again, I do have a little bit of a design background, so my brain does think a little bit towards that, but it was a very user-friendly background. And once I set up the first 2 bartender pages, everybody just started sending me the right information. So it took maybe 5 to 10 minutes to set up each person's individual page. Yeah, it was quite easy.
Perfect. And quick little question, Leslie, how much did you charge for that 50/50 raffle item?
I would have to go back. I think we had like, let me look into it real quick. We have so many events going on. I do apologize that I didn't have that.
That's okay. That's okay. Don't always have to have it. I would say from
$5. We did a $5.
Perfect. Thanks so much. And you got a good response from that as well.
Yeah, we raised probably about $500 and some on that.
Wow. $5 for $500+. That's amazing. Great. And Brandon, quick question for you. What kind of raffle license would you need to run a virtual 50/50 raffle?
That's a great question, and unfortunately, every state has their own little bit of nuances with raffle rules. So I would highly recommend going to your state and looking that up. We do have several organizations that have done raffles over the last few months that have provided some answers on our previous webinars as well. If you reach out to us directly, we can maybe connect you, but unfortunately, I have not memorized all those license rules quite yet, but happy to try and get someone to the right place if needed. But yeah, unfortunately, every state has their own rules there, as I'm sure Leslie encountered. But just do your research. They do try to make it possible for you to be able to accomplish your goal of running that raffle, but they have their own kind of quote unquote gambling rules.
Sure. Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, it takes research for every different state. Leslie, talking about the socially distant guidelines that you had, what were the biggest challenges you ran into? And did you have any folks who were resistant to the guidelines? How would you handle that?
No, not at all. I mean, they were absolutely ecstatic that we had that in place, especially at the event, that there were parents and children, and everybody was respectful. They came in with their masks. We just made sure that we had big sanitizers and extra masks, and everybody had their own equipment. And if they didn't, there was, wipes to wipe everything down. And just an overall, I don't know if it's just the nature of the game of golf and the people who are used to being on the course and used to giving people space and time to shoot their holes and it just worked. It just, I can just say it worked. I don't know how, it just worked.
Hey, we'll take it. That's
Exactly.
Yeah. And
I think they
another
were just happy to be outside and be in an event and doing something. And that probably was a major part of it too.
Absolutely, it's what we're all looking for right now, right? And perfect. So one more question to you here. Could you just explain the pledge to play one more time? How do those buttons work, and like how could anyone use that type of model?
Okay. So the pledge to play, I know we said a pledge, but it's actually the vote mechanism in the Give Smart platform. We just kind of gave it another name when we said pledge. So you use the vote mechanism. So it's so many votes equals so many pledges. And when somebody signs up their own account, they can go in and do 1 vote, 10 votes, 3 votes, which equal out to the pledges. Does that,
Perfect.
did that kind of explain it clearly?
Yes, it does. And on that too, how did people pay? Like, how did that, like, collecting those funds go on that side?
It went really well. So we explained to them that they could go in and pledge so many votes if they had a certain amount that they were not going over, and they could check out manually themselves. So if they were voting for their granddaughter and they said, okay, I'm going to vote $5 per hole or pledge $5 per hole vote, but I'm only going to spend $50. So they would put enough in that would equal out $50 and go in and manually check out. But there was a lot of people that left their account open, and we left it open for a couple days afterwards so that the golfers could get back to their contacts to let them know how many holes they golfed. And then they went in and edited the amount of votes, and then they checked themselves out. And if they had a problem checking out, they just shot me an email and I automatically checked them out.
Got it. Thank you for going into the logistics of how that works for you on that side. Appreciate it. And Kendra, I'll jump to you. You're talking to people every day, and it was obviously a hit for Leslie and her team to add videos under those vote items for the virtual bartender. I'm curious for you, do you think that it's a great idea for people to use videos in general on these fundraising pages for your nonprofit? Where would you kind of encourage videos go and how they're used?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great question. I think with the environment we're currently in for fundraising, videos are an amazing tool. It allows you to put so much more context around your items, whether it's a vote item like a guest bartender or an auction item that might need a little bit more description that somebody could talk through and you could record a video. So now more than ever, I think that tool is super important. I think you can use it in many different ways. So if you have a high-end item that you'd like to give a little bit promotion to, a little bit more explanation to, it's great for that. It's great for a situation like the guest bartender where you're engaging your donors more with the video that way. So I think it's a great tool. I wish everybody would consider using it for some of their items.
Perfect.
Just to add to that, Susanna, one of the techniques that Leslie and them did, and maybe they did this unconsciously or consciously, is by asking the folks doing the videos of why they support First Tee and having some kind of message within each video. It is kind of a video for the nonprofit that they can use in future, messaging and have that on their YouTube, where there's a really great way to tie in the contest, which contests are always really fun. Ways to use video, but also to get that message across of, this impact moment and the impact that they're making on their community still. So if you're doing some type of a contest, if everyone's now going to go do a virtual bartender, which I think is awesome, incorporate the message alongside there. We had another customer who did the heads or tails competition with videos, and what they were able to do is have their it was a sailing organization that had different sailors across the country sending in different videos of why they enjoy sailing and flipping a coin. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Incorporate your message, and have some fun with the contest if you can, but it's a really great way to kind of combine the thought process there.
Thanks, Brandon, for that extra. I think that's so important. And a quick little plug too for next week's Outside the Room webinar. We actually will be talking about videos and how another in St. Mary's de Bulk actually use this as well. So please join us there. And one final quick question here. This is for you, Leslie. We got a question and asked, for payments of the Pledge to Play as well as your other events, do you use PayPal, cash? Like what are the different forms of processing these payments that you used for all of this?
Well, GiveSmart allows you to process the payment within the program itself. So
Yep.
There's no need to bring another platform for credit cards. But we also did give them the option, if they were not comfortable with putting a credit card, that they could mail us a check directly to our office. And we just had to note that in their account.
Perfect. In their GiveSmart account, you entered that?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome.
So we can, if we have the check number, we enter it right in, or we use the other button and say, check will be received in the office. And then once I get it received in the office, which is happening a lot right now with our Mayor's Cup, then I just go in once I receive the check and I edit their payment. Very simple process.
Fantastic. Well, that is it for us today. Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you so much, Kendra and Brandon, for joining us today. And we hope to see you all next week and continuing to join the conversation.
Right. Thank you. My
Thanks.
pleasure.
Thank you.